With the two leading actors in place, it was now time to cast a female lead who would play Danny DeVito's wife Nora in Tin Men. The director, Barry Levinson, wanted to meet Julie Walters and Tracy Ullman as possibilities for the role. Julie Walters was the first to come into the office at Disney, and we hit it off immediately. I really liked her. I think it made her feel comfortable that I was a Midlands girl like her, and she was also grateful for the nice cup of tea I gave her. I told her how much I admired her work in educating Rita, and mentioned how one of the scenes resonated with me. It's a scene in the pub where she's with her mother and father, and everyone's drinking and singing along to a record on the jukebox. Rita notices that her mother has stopped singing, and she's crying. When Rita asks her why she's crying, her mother says, "There must be better songs to sing than this." This is exactly what Rita is trying to do by becoming educated. She's singing a better song. She's breaking away from the known and what may appear to be comfortable. She's forging a new path for herself and becoming who she was meant to be. So often we go along in life singing the same old song. And even though we know there's more out there to explore, fear of the unknown can hold us back. Or we can be discouraged from going after our dreams by family and friends who themselves are afraid to step out of their mundane comfort zone. "If only" is a common refrain from many people as they get older and look back on their lives with discontentment. Insecurity, not feeling good enough, can be the devil on our shoulder, and it takes a lot of strength to shake off negative thoughts, but it's the only way to succeed at anything in life. In an effort to give Julie Walters a true American experience, Barry took her to a baseball game and introduced her to Maryland crab cakes. Although she enjoyed the local seafood delicacy, she was very bored by the baseball game. "Nothing happens," she said. "It's just like cricket." I strongly agreed with her. I've never liked baseball. Tracy Ullman came in the next day, and although she was nice enough, I didn't warm to her in the same way. As it turns out, neither Julie nor Tracy were quite right for the role of Danny's wife, and she was eventually played by Barbara Hershey, an American actress. But Barry hadn't finished with British Midlands talent yet. He decided to hire the Fine Young Cannibals, a talented group from Julie Walters' hometown of Birmingham, to supply some of the music for the film. I was delighted when a handsome Roland Gift, the wonderful singer from the group, arrived in my office to meet Barry. He was actually quite shy, and I think a little in awe of the group being chosen to be in a Hollywood film. Needless to say, he and the other members of the group were a great addition to Tin Men. With casting in place, I had a dilemma. What would I do now? What would I do on location in Baltimore? The producer, Mark Johnson, who went on to produce Breaking Bad, asked me to come up with something I could do on the film. Otherwise, it looked like I'd just be running around making tea for Barry and generally being a dog's body on set. I didn't want that. So I was certainly at a crossroads. I had a sleepless night, and then it came to me I could do publicity on the film. The following day, I suggested this to Mark and brought along a framed certificate of appreciation I'd received from Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau for work I did on a Canada Day celebration in Ottawa. Mark said it was a great idea, and he was confident I'd be able to handle publicity on the film because he knew how well I got on with actors. However, since this was a Disney film, or Touchstone Films, I had to get approval from the head of publicity to do the job. I wasn't a member of the Publicists Guild, which was a problem. But nevertheless, I was approved to cover the film as long as it was kept on the down low, In other words, no one was to know that I was the publicist, otherwise Disney would have been in trouble with the Guild. There was a purpose behind this unorthodox move. Since the three leads, Danny DeVito, Richard Dreyfuss and Barbara Hershey, were not fond of the Disney publicity team for various reasons, I think Disney were relieved to have me as the on-set publicist during production to keep the actors happy, one of the most important aspects of filming. So now I was entering another chapter of my life with many more new and exciting experiences ahead. I arrived in Baltimore, Maryland at the height of summer. It was hot and humid, but despite the oppressive weather, I was excited to be starting a new adventure, working on my first Hollywood feature film. As the chauffeur of the Lincoln Town Car, the first of many chauffeured cars and stretch limos to come, drove me from the airport through the city, I immediately felt at home. Baltimore reminded me of England, with its row houses and cobbled streets. My accommodation for the next 4 months was a very nice and spacious suite at the Tremont Plaza Hotel in the heart of Baltimore. The production offices were at the Holiday Inn near the harbour, and a very short daily commute by a car provided for me. It was like going to a little factory with the hotel rooms dedicated to every area of the film, including design, costumes, props, editing, makeup and hair, transportation, locations, accounting, and office staff. I had my own office as assistant to the director, casting, and an official publicist. When the actors arrived, I soon realized how important it was to make sure they were all comfortable and that they felt secure. This turned out to be my job too. 3 of the main actors needed to know where they could go to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. Another insisted on bringing his dog, and even though the hotel didn't allow animals, I managed to arrange it. One actor, it seemed, was never happy with his room and kept moving around in the hotel and using different names. I put this down to eccentricity, but later found out that he was on parole in LA for a drug offense and shouldn't have left California. Funny story. When the film was completed and I was back at Disney, this actor called me. I asked him how he was, and he told me he was on Terminal Island. I said, "Oh, are you having a good time?" He answered, "No, Marie, Terminal Island is a prison." Apparently, he'd been arrested as soon as he got back to Los Angeles for violating his parole and was given a 6-month prison sentence. At his request, I wrote letters on behalf of the director and producer to say that his behavior on Tin Men had been exemplary, which helped to get him released earlier. There are always so many behind-the-scenes stories on movies. It's a whole other series of episodes, some of which I'll be adding to my book. All 3 leads, Dreyfuss, DeVito and Barbara Hershey, didn't want to be exposed to national publicity because of recent bad experiences. However, they agreed for local dignitaries to visit the set. The governor of Maryland was one of them. It always helped to be nice to local government figures, just in case we needed strings to be pulled, especially with locations. Because I was inundated by media requests for the actors, it was very difficult keeping the press at bay. Eventually, Danny agreed to do some local publicity for a couple of Baltimore-based charities. He was so easygoing, a real sweetheart. But he'd get annoyed when he was out in public and people called him by his character name, Louis, from the TV show Taxi. "He was Danny DeVito, not Louis," he said. I suppose it couldn't be helped, since this character had made him famous. Another part of my job as publicist was to get the lead actors to approve photos taken by the still photographer on set. These would then be sent to Disney for use in press junkets promoting the film. Unfortunately, the actors weren't fond of the still photographer as a person and consequently didn't like her photos. This was a major problem, but I managed to talk them out of having her fired by finding at least several photos that were presentable, albeit with the help of a little magical touching up, pre-Photoshop. I think we can all relate to wanting photos of ourselves to be perfect, but you can imagine how actors feel when they're constantly being judged. Even when they're playing characters, they can still be sensitive about the way they come across. Self-judgment is one of our greatest enemies, whether famous or not, and I believe it also leads to unconsciously judging others. Accepting ourselves as we are, as well as others for who they are, is one of our biggest challenges in life. We're all unique in beautiful and idiosyncratic ways, and I wish we could all realize that. Unfortunately, it seems to be the hardest lesson to learn. Next time, casting unknowns for Tin Men. If you're enjoying my episodes, my social media guru, Horatio, has asked that you please go to YouTube where he's posted my episodes, and if you could like the recordings, subscribe and ring the bell, whatever that means, that would be appreciated. Thank you so much.